5 core 5th dimensional steps to navigating your ascension in 2021 and beyond. And you will, I think, really benefit from this and love this. I want to go through this briefly. I want to take a few of your questions and support you guys on your journey with what's going on with you to the best of my ability. What I was saying right before somehow I got kicked out was that I consider this to be part of my service and mission. Like a huge part of my service and mission is to really show up, to be of service and contribution on the topic areas where I'm most able and available to support others on the ascension journey, to empower people and animals with tools, gifts of consciousness, and healing in the transformational experience, because the healing, in my opinion, is one of the most important parts, which is comprised in all levels of the 5 core steps. You'll see when we go through this. Healing is not something that is reserved for you when you have a physical health issue. That is like that is what people rely on last, right? But healing is shifting consciousness, energy, and vibration when I use the word healing. So in any case, I love showing up for this because it's part of my mission to assist people and animals as we go through this radically advanced ascension process, like radically unknown to us in the physical world. And I love that one of my great gifts is that I'm able to access information, energy, and consciousness from the non-physical realm and bring it into the physical realm. So a lot of what I teach and share is often quite challenging for humans. I know even in my physical world, when I'm dealing with humans, I don't push it in my friendships. I don't try to necessarily offer it unless they ask, because it challenges everyday people to move beyond the known world into the unknown. So that's a huge part of what I bring through is from the unknown realm, because that's what we're going from. We're going from an old paradigm of just everything we've known, been through, done that, been there, repeating cycles over and over again of the same old from lifetime to lifetime, into a whole new realm of what really is unknown to us. So all right, so with that, thanks again for being here. I'm gonna go through these steps, and then I wanna hear from you guys too along the way. And I just wanna give a brief, teeny little background on me, which is that I've been doing this work for 20 years. I've been assisting, more than 20 years now. I've been assisting humans and animals to up-level their frequency and their vibration and their overall consciousness, which is not just something that happens through the left brain. It's an embodiment of energetic vibration, and at the same time it's an up-leveling and shifting to entirely new vibratory states of existence. So not only is it something we embody, but it's something we align, attune to, and vibrate in harmony with, which is the whole new paradigm, right? That's what I've been doing for more than 20 years, and I do this through intuitive guidance, channeling, psychic information, yes, animal communication and telepathy, energy healing, which I love using all kinds of modalities of energy healing. I'm well trained in many, many schools of energy healing, but over time, my own divine guidance and alignment has brought through what's unique and appropriate to me. And of course, I do DNA activations, which is one of my favorite things, because the DNA is major keys and codes for us. So, okay, so with that, and for anyone who doesn't know me, I'll just say my website is lorispagna.com, and that's my name, right? All right, let's go through these 5 core 5th dimensional steps. So the first one is to begin to become aware of and identify what it is that has kept us anchored in the old 3rd dimensional paradigm. So identify it and become aware of it, or become aware of it and identify it. Now, what is it? What is it that has kept us in this old 3rd dimensional paradigm? And it's quite easy to label it with words. It's harder to become consciously aware of it in ourselves. With words, we could blanket statement it as our shadow. Some people would call it the ego. I don't subscribe to that belief system about the ego. That's an old paradigm belief system. But it's all aspects of us that has been unconscious, operating unconsciously. And we know that the average human who does not do any meditation or any healing is operating from only, at best, 10% of their brain capacity. The average human who, and this includes animals too, who are not doing any inner work, even personal improvement or any of that, they're using typically less than 10%. And you know, these people, you know, they kind of, okay, we don't need to talk about them, but they are definitely running around being afraid of COVID, for example. That is a definite theme. And by the way, my guidance told me this, you guys, you will enjoy this, that if you survey, Lori, every person, not children are separate, every person who has gotten COVID officially, which there's no surveys like this, you would be able to know that 100% of them, the adults, had mainstream news on in their household at some time or another, more than just for a second or two or 5 seconds or a minute, that they generally have mainstream news on in their household at a regular time. The children, it would be true of their parents. Now, do I have any proof of that? Nope. But is it a psychic knowing? Yes. So it's a great platform to understand in terms of identifying everything that has kept us stuck and or anchored into this old paradigm that we are unconscious of. One of them is listening to mainstream, which I laughingly call lamestream media, because it is, to me, the toxic information on earth. It's toxicity for the brain, which ultimately was, if that psychic knowing is true, which again, we can't measure that because there's not been any studies like that, because that kind of a study isn't known in the known world. But if it is true, we can see that's one of those things that is affecting our brain waves, right? Because the mainstream news is a brainwave frequency that vibrates kind of like this. And the new paradigm that we're up-leveling ourselves to vibrates more like, sort of like a flow. I don't know, sort of more flowy. So energetically, that's how it feels in our body, and that's how the energy around us feels, right? So that's one of those things. But what do I mean by the shadow of what we're meant to identify and become aware of? The shadow, what we've been unconscious of. It's comprised. We could break it down further. Everything we believe or have believed that has kept us in that old paradigm of belief systems, everything we perceive, our perspectives, our judgments, even our ideologies, any vibrations or energetic blockages or entanglements. That includes things like codependency in relationships. That includes things like addictions and addiction patterns, whether it's alcohol, drugs, shopping, spending, narcissistic programming, like addiction to me. You can go on and on with addiction patterns, right? Eating, sugar, unhealthy food substances, addiction to work. Okay, so those are addiction patterns. So we're talking about this in step one. These are the core. The step one is to become aware of it. Where is that playing out in our life? How might that play out in our experience? Addiction to news, watching violence, because that affects our brain and what we think and perceive. And remember, we're the gatekeepers of our minds and our awareness. So anywhere we're hostage, what does that mean, hostage? Where we're keeping ourselves stuck in some kind of box or limitation. So let me ask you, for those of you with me, where are you experiencing, who of you among you are experiencing potentially limitations around the area of money and or wealth? You can type in a yes if that's you. That's the vast majority of people on earth right now. Money and or wealth and or materialistic substance. So curious if any of you want to agree to that, right? So that is, wherever that is, that means Thank you. Thank you, Kim, for sharing. That means somewhere in your beliefs, your belief systems, your thoughts, your ideas, your perspectives, your energy, your core vibration, there is something operating unconsciously, because that's not your choice, right? We all want to live rich, abundant, prosperous lives. Doesn't necessarily mean we want money, but we want to be feeling and experiencing ourselves rich, abundant, prosperous, wealthy, whatever is right and appropriate for us. One person's wealth is not another person's wealth. One person's wealth is a boat, a houseboat with almost nothing in their house, or another person's wealth is a van. Another person's wealth is a mansion, or you understand. But the fact that you're willing to acknowledge that, Kim, bravo, because that's you recognizing and being aware. That's step one. Money is one example. Money, wealth, abundance, prosperity. And that's also, for those of you who are familiar with my course on personal power, that's one of the key areas we give our power away, because the universe is infinitely abundant, infinitely prosperous. Everything, all prosperity is coming through our core channel, our consciousness, our liberated mind's awareness, our energetic vibration that's aligned and attuned with our divine source, one true God, however we understand and know that, infinite, omnipresent. So money, wealth, abundance, prosperity is one of those ways that we box ourselves into an old paradigm. And if any of us are not experiencing that in its full, whole richness, that's an area where we have to excavate. We have to excavate, identify, and become aware of that. That's step one. What about physical health issues? Thanks, Stacy, for your comment on the DNA activations. Thank you. What about physical health issues? Is there anyone who's willing to share? Hi, Peggy. I see all your yeses. Kate, thanks for sharing. Morgan says yes. Kim says yes. Olga said yes. All right, what about health-related issues, physical health issues? Now, obviously, that is a major theme on Earth right now. People being afraid of COVID and getting this horrible, deadly virus, which it's all hyped up in the mainstream news. I'm not saying the experience isn't real. I'm not without compassion for people and animals who have been suffering. I'm doing my best to offer solution here. We can't have solution if we don't become aware of how the problem has happened. So please know that. But COVID is a great example of how people have given their power away to an old paradigm limitation, right? Health-related issues, virus, fear of a virus, fear of death, fear of getting sick. Anywhere we're having health-related issues, any disease, now it doesn't even have to be COVID. If your family lineage, for example, has diabetes, depression, weight-related issues, physical body health issues of any kind, you know the diseases, heart issues, heart attack, cardiovascular-related issues, brain health, any kind of mental disorders, schizophrenia, bipolar. We could go on and on, right? I mean, I realize I've barely even scratched the surface of health-related issues. If you have one of the ones I love to address, allergies, if you've been living with allergies, all of these health-related issues are aspects of third dimensional consciousness. And by the way, anything that's in your family lineage is written into the second strand of your DNA. Storyline of the ancestors. Doesn't have to stay that way. Anyone who's worked with me on DNA activations, we can clear that stuff up and out relatively quickly and easily once we become aware that it's possible for us. But in the old paradigm, we're stuck into these belief systems that diabetes isn't curable and, dementia's not curable and on and on. And again, and viruses can kill you. That's all old paradigm, third dimensional, unconscious beliefs. Again, and the first step is to begin to identify and become aware of what it is that we're experiencing that's got us stuck and or trapped in that old paradigm. So health-related issues are one of them. And if it's ancestral, it doesn't mean you're stuck with it. That's an old belief system If your ancestors have it and it's in your genetics, you're stuck with it. Not true. Not true. But in the old paradigm, we believed it, and so we made it true. New paradigm, as you understand the steps, that doesn't have to be true for you. You can change your experience. So, Olga, I'm so glad you said you don't fear COVID or any viruses. I don't know if you've ever done any of my DNA activations, but that will definitely free you from the fear for sure. And when you're freed from the fear, you stop. You can't even attract it, right? Energy. You could, other reasons could attract something to you, but not. I mean, the fear base is the biggest thing, because that old paradigm, by the way, we know it's all about fear. It's all fear-based. Lack, limitation, and fear. Those are the games of the old paradigm. Lack, limitation, fear. And the overriding game is secrecy, coercion, manipulation, domination, service to self, me. Narcissistic programs run amok. Look at all of our world leaders. They're all, if you're willing to see it, they're all narcissists. The whole third dimensional paradigm is based in narcissism. I don't know if everyone can see it, but it really is. Service to self above the other, on and on. Okay. So that's the second big area, right? Our physical health. So we got money-related issues, physical health, including ancestral stories, whatever that might be. A third area that we need to identify too, remember, we're still on step one of become aware, consciously aware, and identify these things. The third key area tends to be in relationships. So look in all of your relationships. Sophia said high blood pressure. Great example of step of number 2, right? High blood pressure is totally healable. In the third paradigm, someone might not think it's healable. Someone might think you need to take a pill. You know, we're trained to believe take a pill and fix it. In the new paradigm, that's not the solution. But still staying with step number 1, the third area we mentioned, relationships. So relationships with in-laws, family members, friends, you know, and remember, it could be groups. I've spoken in the past about my relationship with TSA that I had to heal. It could be any external authority figure. It could be your relationship to politicians or politics in general, or it could be your relationship to government. So it doesn't have to be a person. It can be how you see, perceive, feel, interact with any group or organization. It could be your relationship to organized religion. People have a lot of unconscious beliefs and belief systems and programs about organized religion that they're not even conscious of, right? By the way, in the first 2 strands of DNA, the second strand is all kinds of religious programming and indoctrination, including what we call crucifixion implants, which bind people from being in their power, disconnect them at the crown from source, and disconnect them at the ankles from Mother Earth. These are unconscious in the DNA, and people don't understand why they're walking around feeling powerless, or that God's not listening to them. If you've ever felt like God's not helping you, or God's keeping something from you, or somehow you're being deprived, or somehow God has failed you, that, by the way, falls into a 4th category, but that's a relationship, and that stuff can be coded into the DNA at the 2nd strand, unconsciously affecting us until we become conscious of it. Again, this is all step 1, right? Identifying this stuff so it no longer controls us, so that we can free ourselves out of this old 3rd paradigm. So relationships, and I'm just curious for any of you here if you have found that you have any of those kinds of relationships that are challenging to you. It could be a boss, a coworker, a colleague, a friend. It could be just a belief system that you maybe, I carried this for years. I'm going to tell you a little story here. For years, I mean, when I say years, I would say my entire lifetime up until the last 2 years. I had a belief, a set of belief systems that I was bad at relationships. And I had a set of belief systems that I wasn't even conscious of, that I had to buy my friendships. And so in all of my friendships, I was always giving them free readings, free healings, you know, like free gifts. I would bring them on retreats for free, free classes. I would, in my unconscious, I would think, now that I gave you all those things, you see my value and worth, you'll want me as a friend. I was so unconscious of it. It took my last retreat. I brought someone to be an assistant as a retreat, and she completely, she sold tried to hijack my clients and sell them. And when I went to visit her, she just wasn't talking to me, because after I gave everything to her, when I went to go visit her, after the retreat was over, she didn't even have any time. She completely blew me off. She made zero time for me. And I realized she doesn't, no matter what I gave to her, she just doesn't care about our friendship. It was only what she could get out of me. I was bribing my friend to be friends with me. And now she's showing she didn't even care about me anyway. Like, that was my lesson, right? But the thing is I wasn't even conscious of the fact that I had this belief that, I had to bribe my friends to be friends with me, and that because it was stemming from a further, deeper belief that I wasn't good at relationships. And that was because I was involved in a family dynamic, a nuclear family dynamic, where the family members were very confrontational and aggressive. I was always playing peacemaker, trying to be peaceful, and I tried everything I could to get along with these relationships and make them work. And I eventually realized, like, this just isn't working. Like, there's nothing I'm doing that can ever make this work, because I'm the only one in these relationships who's actually making any attempt to improve them. They just aren't interested in that. And once I separated from that, and this took like literally 3 years to get this lesson. I mean, my whole life it's been like that. That's when I finally started to break away and realize, like, I'm not interested in being friendly with someone who's not interested in being friends with me. I don't need fake friends anymore. And I'm not willing to bribe my friends. Even though when a friend asks, I'll still always say yes if a friend asks, because that's who I am as a friend. I'm a very generous, kind friend. But this is part of my learning, right? Now, you may have these kinds of experiences or similar to this in your life. Where are your relationships out of alignment? How and what might you believe or perceive about yourself in relationships that's keeping you stuck in an old paradigm? And Violet's saying she finds herself isolated, lonely and isolated. And I'm so, that's awesome. She didn't say lonely. She said isolated. She talks out loud to herself. I did that for years. I still do it. I totally get that. But the isolation, that's part of why I do retreats. I do sacred retreats because we have incredible community. Everyone falls in love with everybody on these retreats because I set the stage for that kind of environment, because I want people to come out of the isolation, because we need one another. All right, so that's one of the ways too, right? Our unconscious beliefs around relationship to ourselves, to others. And then finally, the other major area too that's still in this, that where we have to identify, is our belief systems around spirituality and God. And that includes science, because science in the old paradigm has become a new religion, right? My ex-husband used to say this all the time: if science hasn't validated it, I won't believe it. And it was like talking puppet. I'd be like, blah, 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 blah. If science doesn't validate it, I won't believe it. Wah, 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 wah. It's like, okay. Science, by the way, I just want to tell you, can only validate what we, in our consciousness, know to be true. I'm sorry. If people don't realize that, scientists should hear that. Science can only validate what we, in our consciousness, know to be true, except for the universal laws, quantum physics. Those were set up in time, space, reality on purpose in advance of our experience, so that we could have navigation tools. And that's what, by the way, Einstein and other great physicists have known and tapped into. Einstein, by the way, was a really spiritual dude. That's how he learned his stuff, right? He'd go into altered states. So many of the amazing scientists that we know and love and worship in our post-study, they're really spiritual beings who got downloads from consciousness in the non-physical world, right? All right. So yeah, Olga says her family relationship has been the biggest lesson. I mean, mine too. And I love my family. All I ever wanted was to love them, but I just didn't know how to be in relationship with them. And I had to learn I had to learn how to be in relationship, and what the gift of that was. I finally realized, like, I'm awesome in relationships. I'm so good at relationships. I didn't even realize how good I am, because I just let people be who they are, and I'm giving and I'm accepting. Not like I'm some perfect person, but just that was the gift of challenging relationship with my family, was that I eventually realized my greatness in relationship. So they gifted me, right? Our worst teachers, our worst so-called challenges are our greatest teachers, right? You guys know that. And so, Olga, I totally get what you mean about your family relationship as your biggest lesson. Totally true. And that's where our greatest gifts come from, our greatest challenges, right? And Carolyn says, I had two relationships, and each had a dysfunctional family, all falling out, not nice vibration to be in, too low for me, so they didn't work out. I totally get that, because when I was trapped in those lower relationship realms, I was not attracting and vibrating in harmony with healthy relationships. And when I, a year ago, left Florida, it was really because I knew I just had to make, even if only a temporary geographical change, to just really change the vibration of relationships that I was entangling in, that I was engaged in, so that I could really be in healthy relationship. Because at that point I started to realize I am healthy, and I do know how to do relationships in a healthy way, and I have to sever, so to speak, my old connections so that I can level up to what I'm meant to. So this is what I mean, right? This is what I mean about the first step, becoming consciously aware, identifying it and being aware. And the fourth step we mentioned was religion and science, right? And science is like a new religion to some people. That's what I was saying. So yeah, we all have a relationship with God, whatever that is, even if we identify our God to be science, and that we don't, probably you wouldn't be listening here. Hi, Aurora. I love you too. Aurora is my family. You are my soul sister. I love you so much. All the time when I think about you, I'm like, I love her. She's one of my faves. So, all right. But so here's my thing, is that your relationship with God, the divine source creator God, that is a relationship with yourself. That is a relationship with yourself, because you are the divine embodied. And yes, the divine is you. It's all that is, everyone, everything, everywhere. And even if you're identifying it as science, then you can cultivate your relationship with God as a science mind. But the idea is to develop and cultivate that relationship so that you're so unified with it. Because in the old paradigm, that relationship has kept us in separation. That God is some external Santa Claus in the sky who rewards some and doesn't, punishes others, and maybe you're a sinner, or I don't know. You know, that's old paradigm stuff that we have to break free from. So on and on we could go about that. But we could go on about it, but that's a way we've given our power away, and that's something that has kept us separated in that old paradigm. And that is another key area where we have to identify that shadow, identify those shadow aspects of ourselves. And you know what they are right now. If you've had challenges with money, wealth, abundance, prosperity, if you've had challenges with physical health and well-being, if you've had relationship challenges, people, places, things, groups, organizations, or God's source creator and your own self, because you are one with the divine in the new paradigm. You unify with your divine source. And so self-love, self-worth, self-value. I mean, anyone who's ever believed or perceived that you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you're not capable, it's not possible for you, all of that is shadow stuff from that old paradigm that has to be identified. Step one, that we need to awaken to. Anywhere, I call this carpet sweeping, where we suppressed and or denied ourselves, our truth, our rightness, our greatness, our divinity. Those four areas are just part of it. It's all those beliefs, belief systems, points of view, perspectives, judgments. Everywhere we judge another, judge anyone or anything as wrong or less than, that's another example. So you can see even step 1 in these 5 key steps could take a lifetime. Right? We're here. That's why it's all accelerated, so we can really identify this stuff as fast as we can. So we have to identify and become conscious of all these areas, and that includes where we give our power away. And I'll just add in one more thing if I didn't make this point. Right now, in my personal opinion, oh, I could make a whole video on this for an hour and a half. In my personal opinion, before we move to step 2, what do you think the biggest problem is on Earth right now? I want to hear from you guys. I'm going to be quiet. Will you please type in, what do you think is the biggest problem on Earth? Some of you might say COVID. Come on, I want to hear from you. Don't be shy. I don't see anyone typing on this one. What do you think is the biggest problem on Earth right now? Some people will say environment. Some people will say the government. No one's typing in on this one? All right, well, fear. Okay, fear is a good one. Men? So, Violet, you said men? That's belief systems. You got to excavate that relationship in gender. Relationship with gender, you got to excavate that. That's step 2. But fear, a lot of people are saying fear. I would say, I agree, but I wouldn't say on Earth. Fear is not a problem on Earth. Fear is a problem of the unconscious in the way that I'm asking. Separation, yes. Control of us, yes. Disconnection from source, yes. Using brain instead of heart, yes. Duality, yes. I love your answers. People don't know their discernment, yes. Oh my God, you guys have really good answers. Sophia says government. Sophia, you got to do some work with your belief systems on government. All right, self-love and true connection, a lack of, I think you mean, Lisa, and I would say yes. But that's not where I was going. Lost connection, Petra says. Okay, yes, but that's not where I was going. Elena said knowing the feeling of love, and I would say yes, you mean lack of that. Sex trafficking, Kimberly said, okay, that is a problem, and it's a huge one, but no. Mind control, Sophia said. I say yes to all of yours, but to me, right now, in the physical earthly realm, lack of critical thinking and fear, you guys have awesome answers. Greed, that's a good one too. But no, the biggest problem on Earth, in my opinion, is the lamestream media. In the physical earthly realm, because the bigger problem is, I mean, fear is a way bigger problem. Lack of consciousness, lack of self-love, yes. But those are more energetics, mental, emotional, spiritual. What I'm talking about in the physical, tangible, touchy world. And the reason I say it is the mainstream media is because it is pure lies and propaganda. And it is the cause of the physical earthly problems. Because you don't have to get spiritual to be educated properly through mainstream media. But what they're doing is teaching fear. They're using a core vibration of fear. They're providing lies. They're literally lying to people. Secrecy, coercion, manipulation, dominance, greed. Greed is in there. It's all in there. And that is what's brainwashing. Someone said mind control. The mainstream narrative. It's a false narrative. We call that a false narrative. And false narrative programs, by the way, are in the DNA. Vulnerability to false narratives. Once you start clearing that out and you reactivate discernment, which somebody put that in there, you start getting more discerning and you're like, wait a second. What are they telling me? By the way, this thing here did not come from my dog. I just want to say I was moving furniture around in my house and I was so foolish. Like I didn't realize how big the furniture was and I bumped into something and it bumped back into me. So I just want to say, you guys might get to say hello to her later, but she's sleeping right now. All right, so enough of that. Let's go to step number 2, because that's what we're all here for. So if you haven't already heard me say it, step number 2, beyond like the excavation of it, where you start identifying these things, which we just started to identify them on big collectives, but you got to go deep into your unconscious to find your beliefs, your belief systems, and all that, judgments, opinions, ideas, concepts, and all the DNA that's faulty programming in mostly the second strand, but also some of the other strands. The second step, that comes with that after that inner excavation. And I said after, but I want to tell you it's non-linear because it's all always happening. The second step is to basically begin to heal and resolve those things, heal and resolve them. And this is why I said what I said earlier about the healing process, because a lot of people believe that healing is something you do when you get a disease. You go to a healer because you got a disease. But I will say that dis-ease of any kind is an effect of not doing the inner excavation and not doing healing on your healing journey. So when someone gets physically ill, and this could include certainly COVID, it's because at the point of time and space, they got into a state of unconsciousness that their core vibration was dense enough that it was vibrating with sickness, illness, disease, right? So the healing process then is something that we do as prevention. Yes, it can cure, but it's prevention because you're working with all of these beliefs, belief systems, thoughts, ideas, opinions, judgments, perspectives, ideologies, programs in the unconscious, implants in the DNA, false patterns in the DNA, some of which we've just identified, and all of these ways we give our power away, all of the energetics through our bodies and beings. The healing process is what takes what we become aware of, that through the identification process, to resolve it. Heal and resolve. That is step 2. The healing and the resolving process, in my opinion, is most effective when we're working 3 ways. Number 1, personally, we can do that with our personal things that we do, journaling, meditating, walking in nature, dancing, all the rituals of self-love, self-honor, self-care, everything that falls into that. That's true self-love and self-care. Walking, meditating, dancing, singing, oming, chanting, if that's right for you, crystal singing bowls, Himalayan singing bowls, whatever for you feels self-love, self-healing, yoga, the 5 Tibetan rites, qigong, igong, walking on a beach, swimming, planting, nature, whatever. That is one of the ways we do healing. One of the ways, and that's just tons of stuff in that category, right? And I know I've missed some, but you understand. And that one of the other key ways is to work with a skilled practitioner who is a healer who can actively work. Now, why does healing work on this? Because healers who are truly walking their talk, and I consider myself to be one of those people, 24/7 walking my talk, working through this stuff myself, doing these processes myself. A healer is able to hold a frequency, a true gifted healer, to hold a frequency vibration of consciousness that they are not going to get either entangled in your issues and drop down in vibration to whatever it is you're trying to clear, heal, or resolve, and or that they're able to access higher realms of consciousness to uplift you and hold that frequency within themselves, which I know I am one of those people. So a true gifted healer is going to help you do that inner excavation and then resolve whatever it is that has to be resolved, whether it's a belief system, a thought, an opinion, a judgment, perspective, any frequency or vibration that's keeping you entangled and or stuck in that lower dimensional realm that we identified in step 1. So step 2 is the healing and resolving process. And those are 2 of the key ways, is what you do on your own, journaling, meditating, walking, nature, yoga, all those things that you do for self-love, self-care, your self-inner work. And then the second part of that is working with a neutral healer, spiritual teacher, mentor, practitioner, who can help you with your blind spots, who can hold the core frequency vibration that's going to help you uplift and simultaneously be clearing and resolving those other denser energetics, right? That's the second way. And the third way is immersion. Immersion. What do I mean by immersion? Sacred retreat. Immersing yourself. And that's why I lead retreats. That's why I love retreats. I have 2 upcoming retreats I want to tell people about, but that's not the focus of today. But I have a crystal retreat that I've been leading for years. I love it so much. We work with the crystals. The crystals actually help facilitate DNA activation, opening the pineal pituitary gland, the psychic eye, opening the heart center and all the brain matter in the heart, opening the belly center and all the brain matter in the gut, learning how to work with the crystalline consciousness to activate and awaken, all the stuff we do on that retreat. That's in September. And the other retreat I just launched is my Sacred Sedona retreat coming up at the end of May. It's on my website at lauriespagna.com under the live events tab. You'll see it. But that is the third way that I know of. So your first way we talked about, second way we talked about working with a healer who can help you to up-level your vibration and clear and resolve that stuff for you. And third way is some form of immersion where you are immersing yourself. And why is that so important? Because the immersion, the intensification of doing like a week-long retreat means you don't get to just, what happens during a retreat, in my experience, with a really amazing retreat. Yes, breath work, by the way, Kate said, I would include that as in the first category, right? The first category that you do that on your own, which of course classes, I could add another step in there, classes and workshops. Absolutely. If it's a class on breath work, if it's a class on meditation where you're learning it, if it's a class on developing your psychic gifts, it's a class or a workshop or, a webinar on DNA. I mean, I do those. Absolutely. That's a third way, right? A group class or immersion. And then the fourth way I would say is a retreat, a full immersion. Why is a full immersion so important? Is that it doesn't allow you to dip back, in a sense. To me, a week-long retreat can change you forever for the better, because it does not allow you to do just for an hour to do something and then go back into your old patterns and behaviors, right? It's an immersion that you're full on 100% changing your vibration, up leveling your core frequency, doing that inner excavation of identifying the unconscious, replacing it with the new frequencies of consciousness, and you're in an environment of people who are doing the same. So those are the 4 ways. And thank you, Kate, for mentioning the breath work, because that brought that. Yes. When we're talking about step 2 of the 5 steps, which is basically clearing and resolving, healing and resolving, clearing, healing, and resolving all of those unconscious things, the shadow work. 4 key ways. One is all that stuff we do on our own. Self-love, self-care, self-nurturing, nature, exercise, yoga, eating healthy, choosing pure foods, meditating. If I didn't say that one, we talked about all that. Inner journaling, inner excavation that we do on our own personally, and through the healing and self-love and self-care process. And that could include all those things we talked about: swimming, dancing, playing, etc., breath work, as Kate mentioned. Now, the second one would be, I would say, is working with a skilled practitioner, which we talked about, which I would use the word healer, but some people might use a different word. They might not use that. Energy worker, a mentor, an intuitive, some kind of coach, a neutral person whose vibratory frequency, in my opinion, should be more advanced or progressed than your own. And there's no wrongness in that. We're all at different places in our journey. I work with people too, and I still rely on great friends to help me to see my blind spots and to work through my own issues. There's no wrongness. We're here together, working together to support one another. So you want to find someone who's more advanced than you are at whatever it is you're working on, even if it's money issues. I mean, the great money coach is, what's his name? Okay, so I'm going to forget his name right now because I wasn't going there, but there's lots of money coaches, right? I have a whole money program in my, a great money program that I love in my sacred membership. But just, in other words, you just want to go to someone who's more advanced on any particular area. So that's the second thing. Working with some kind of coach, mentor, healer, intuitive, psychic, reader who can really help you through. Third thing, classes and workshops. And that includes if you want to take a class and workshop on breath work. Of course, you can do breath work on your own. That would be under the step one, the first piece of it. But a class or a workshop on meditation, a class or a workshop on opening your psychic gifts, a class or a workshop on raising your vibration, a class or a workshop on how to do Ascension, a class or a workshop on pick your theme, anything that's going to assist you. And even if it's just for pure joy, like namology that I talked about last week, anything that you do for joy, for expanding your consciousness is going to assist you. So any class or workshop. DNA activations, absolutely. I do those in classes or webinars, right? Online webinars. And then fourth one we said was immersion, some kind of immersion, which is why retreats are off the charts awesome. And yes, Peggy, you're coming to the crystal retreat. I see your comment. I'm so excited about your upcoming crystal retreat. So yay, yes. Totally true. Carolyn's asking, does the one works because it is raising your vibrational frequency because you are doing things you love doing? I think I understand your question. And yeah, whenever you're doing what you love doing, you are raising your frequency. Absolutely. First step. That's the whole, everything in that first step where you're doing your own work on your own, that is raising your frequency. Yes, for joy. She said it was answered. So awesome. Okay. All right, good. So does this make sense to everybody? Is everybody with me? You following along with me? Because I didn't do a formal presentation, but you get it. We've gone through step 1 and step 2, and we've kind of broken down step 1 and step 2 as well. Yeah? Does this make sense to everybody? You guys with me? To step 3, but I'll take if there's any questions. Violet says, I want to attend your retreat so bad. Trying to plan. Well, I want to tell you, Violet, I know your name. I don't know if you're on my newsletter list, but for my inner community, they will be getting a coupon code. So make sure you're registered in my community because I will be offering that. It's, again, at lorispagna.com. By the way, I'll give you some free gifts here for anyone who's not in my community. But you do kind of have to stay on the community list because I don't get them out every single time. But you can go to lorispagna.com/free gifts/DNA, and you'll get a free DNA activation there. You can also go to lorispagna.com/free gifts/animals. Tons of great content there about understanding animals, working with animals, developing telepathy, psychic connection, ways you can connect with your, I mean, there's so much stuff in that free gift. It's like enough to keep you busy for a while. There's some classes and meditations, great stuff in there. And then also if you resonate as a Starseed Lightworker, or you want to know more about a Lightworker, like I identify as Starseed and Lightworker and a member of the Indigo family tribe, which is basically people who are focused on ascension in different capacities. You can go to lorispagna.com/free gifts/Starseed. And that will get you in the community and on the newsletter. You'll get a great class and ebook on that topic area. Also, if you want to know more about crystals and the key crystals you want to use, how to work with crystals and what the major crystals you want for ascension, you want to go to lorispagna.com/free gifts/crystals. There's a great ebook and MP3 class on that. You will love it if you're a crystal fan, especially if you're interested in the crystal retreat in Arkansas. So yeah, head over to those links, and you're welcome to share those because those are free gifts. Once you're in the community, you also get invited to a healing list that I typically do not announce only to people who are already in my community, but I do healing, remote healing on everyone, and includes their animals. For people who are already in my community, they get that link periodically. And whenever I do live calls just for my inner community, there's other free gifts coming too. I'm working on getting a wealth. Oh, this really awesome wealth prayer out to people. It's so good. And it's just that my tech guy's taking a little bit of time right now to build it. And I'm also going to get out an Ascension prayer and some Ascension activations for people as a free gift. But it takes a little bit of time to build this stuff on the back end. So, all right, so let's go on. I love looking at your comments. Linda says, you have a great way of putting concepts into words. Oh, thanks for saying that. And Carolyn says, DNA activations are brilliant. Love them. Oh, Carolyn, thank you for reminding me again. It's the second time you've reminded me of something I wanted to read to you. Oh, it was you, Carolyn. It's your same name. Carolyn wrote the nicest feedback. Thank you, Carolyn. I want to read it to people, and then I'll get on to the next steps, okay? She wrote, hi, Lori. So Carolyn purchased the full package of DNA activations, and that's on my website under the membership. It's a sub package. It's its own package. It's the history of DNA activations. By the way, we are going to be adding a lot more to there, so stay tuned. It's a year-long membership with all the DNA activations and meditations for how you activate your own DNA. And Carolyn wrote, I am delighted with this purchase. That makes me so happy, Carolyn. She says, I had always been curious about codes and how they worked, and I have just had an amazing experience. It makes me so happy. And she says, when I was listening to the MP3 activation of the Divine Blueprint, Solar Cosmic Christ activation, and the Lightbody Merkaba activation, and other ones on that MP3, there's lots of activations in there. Those are a few of them. She says, I saw with my inner vision in at least 3 of the activations, I saw, she says, the codes downloading and activating. Isn't that so cool? That's awesome, Carolyn. Good for you. It also means you're not only are you getting the activations, but your psychic gifts are coming more online, which is a natural byproduct of doing this work. She says, I saw small cubes flying in, landing in a horizontal line, partially overlapping each other. And as they came in, the line of the cubes was becoming longer to the right. It was becoming longer. I just want to say I do use sacred geometry. So that is part of your witnessing is awesome. And your cubes are forms of sacred geometry. And that is a huge way that I work with the DNA. So very cool. And she says they were flying in on super electronic fast rate. That's very cool because it is like that fast, right? And this started as you were talking about the activation. And in the last activation, by the time you said that activation would start, it was just ending with her, which means you're already functioning in real time because my words to explain it sometimes are slower. The activation, it's so fast. She says, I always wondered how the codes work, and now I really understand. This was so beautiful to witness, really amazing, with gratitude and blessings for you. It is so appreciated. Carolyn, thank you. And I will tell you a little. Every once in a while, I will ask Source to please give me some feedback on how I'm helping. I do get a lot of wonderful feedback, but that's my fuel. It makes me so happy. So I'm so glad and grateful. You had such a great experience, and I just want to tell you, stay with it because it gets better and better and better. So good. I mean, it's just so good. I don't know how else to explain it. And it awakens so much consciousness that you didn't even know you had. Because now, once you start doing those DNA activations, you're moving way beyond 10% of capacity in your brain. You're moving way beyond. And we have literally what the whales and dolphins say is that we will at some point be restoring up to 90 to 95% capacity of our brains without any need for technology to do it for us, although that will be available if we choose it. Amazing, right? So thank you, Carolyn. And she says, tears to my eyes, thank you. I'm so glad. All right, good. And so let's move on with the next step. So third step. I'm wondering if anyone might know what it is. I love seeing your comments. The third step is to awaken, activate, download, and integrate. So what do I mean by this? It's literally kind of like the step 2 is to clear, heal, and resolve something that's from the old paradigm. Step 3 is to awaken and activate and integrate something that's from the new paradigm. So the new paradigm is going to be all new frequencies, new energetics from this new paradigm. Now, what are those new energetics? What are they? Does anyone know? Does anyone want to say, what are the new energetics? You're going to know this. If the old energetics are all based in fear from the old paradigm, which clearly from your comments, you guys know that, the old energetics are based in fear, domination, manipulation, secrecy, coercion, anxiety, frustration, lack, limitation. That's the old energetics that we're clearing, healing, and resolving in step 2. We're excavating, identifying in step 1. We're clearing and resolving in step 2. Step 3 is to activate and awaken and download the new energetics. Kim says love. Yes, absolutely. Love-based. What else? What are they going to be? Peace-based. Based in love, based in peace. Based in truth. Truth. Old energetics are lies, dominance, secrecy, coercion, manipulation, falsity, greed, secrecy. New core vibration is going to be based in higher truth. And you know when you're getting a truth, because you're going to light up, right? When we say love, everybody's like, yes, new energetics are based in love. And that happens to be a truth. So everybody can be like, yes, right? Truth, divine truth, right? Divine truth. Wisdom, new energetics. Freedom, yes. Tammy says freedom, yes. Joy, transparency, Linda says, yes. Joy, more enjoyment. That's why, like, I'm so excited. I just got invited to be a speaker at the National Dowsing Convention again. This is my 3rd year. Well, actually, I think it's my 4th year in attendance and my 2nd year as a speaker. And it's coming up in June. It will be through webinar. And I should say, what I noticed in my comments back and forth with the committee, one of the nicest comments that was coming from a woman named Suzanne was she's like, you're so optimistic, you're so enthusiastic, you're so excited. And I'm like, yeah, I really am. Those are core frequencies. That's my normal. That's my normal. If I'm not like that, then I'm playing somewhere in the lower realms. And I get those ways too. Like I can still dip into the lower realms, have frustration for a day, anxiety. I don't really get anxiety anymore, but that almost never affects me anymore. But like frustration, irritability, I can have those, right? But these new frequencies, joy, someone else, Teresa says harmony, yes. Christ consciousness, Peggy says, yes, although that's something you would download, right? It is a frequency, but that's something you activate and awaken. So yes, bliss, that's an energetic frequency. It's a new, Carrie said compassion, yes. See so laughter, yes. This weekend, I was out with a friend for a day, and my friend was quite frustrated a number of times through the day. She got frustrated at one of the events we attended to because they didn't want cell phones. She got frustrated because she didn't want to have to wait for me. I was socializing, and it was my plan to be there socializing. So she got frustrated a couple of times with a couple things. And I remember thinking, like, she's not doing the inner excavation right now to identify and own her frustration. Right now, she's in the energy of it. And we do have moments where we drop into it. It's not wrong or bad. It's just important that we remember, that's what this energetic is. And that is a denser energetic. And so I have to identify this. What is this? What is it within me? What is the cause within me? What's going on here so that I can resolve this? Step 2. And maybe I might need someone to assist me who's neutral or who I can trust. That's part of step 2. And then what do I need to replace it with? Some kind of acceptance, joy, some kind of truth, higher truth, divine consciousness, divine perspective, divine understanding, something coming from these higher realms. Because in the next time after we do that, she's not going to have to be so frustrated or angry or resentful. Now, So that's step 3, really. That is the big step 3, is to activate and awaken a new frequency that is more based in the new paradigm. And this, you know, when this happens, when you're doing this, because you will start to witness a change in yourself and in your life. Let's face it, why does anyone do this spiritual work? It's not normal in the mainstream old paradigm. It's still by many others considered to be woo-woo. I mean, in my world, it's normal. Why do we do this? Why do we do any of this? It's not easy. It's not a pill. It doesn't happen like overnight. That's why working with a third-party person or an immersion is so effective, because it accelerates it for you. But why do we do this? I mean, if you don't realize why we do it, I mean, yes, freedom is one of them, but I want to say that why we do it really is to improve the quality of our life experience, right? A great example, once again, I'm sorry to say, is COVID. People who are getting COVID or who have gotten COVID, sadly, got trapped in a fear paradigm during that experience, and their experience was not very pleasant. We do this kind of work so that we can have a better experience. Another example, going back to money. People who are not doing the inner work are trapped in frequency bandwidth of lack around the issue of money, wealth, prosperity, abundance, etc. That's not fun or enjoyable. It's not a nice experience. It is a learning opportunity. It's not wrong or bad. It just is. But as we do that inner excavation, clear it out, resolve it, and then download and activate new frequencies. By the way, the new frequencies in the new paradigm are limitless abundance, prosperity, wealth, the opportunity to grow and expand your wealth index, the possibility of knowing it's real and possible for you, knowing that the divine source will support and assist you, being generally fearless, or at least saying, I identify there's a little fear there, but I'm not willing to give in to the fear. That's why we do it. It improves our life, because now we get to have a whole new experience with regard to money, wealth, abundance, prosperity. Same thing in relationships. Why do we do this work? If you're having problems in relationships, the example I had with my friend, by the end of the day, she was like, why don't you call me more? Why aren't you calling me? You said you want to go out more. You're not calling me. And I remember, like, it took me a little while to unpack it. I mean, I'm busy. I have a full-time career, which is my mission. And I love that. I just got a dog. I just relocated. I'm discovering a lot of new things. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm decorating a home, all kinds of stuff. But I did ask myself that. And I thought, well, because a lot of times her energetic is like that. Frustration, anger. There's a low vibing frustration and anger there that she has to excavate, right? And so, you know, your enjoyment level goes up so much more. Your overall happiness, your overall fulfillment goes up so much more when you're doing this work. That's why we do it. Your relationships get better. You start choosing relationships that are more uplifting. And I don't know if Aurora is still on the phone, but, and maybe I hope you are, that you're hearing this, but I know I've said it to her. I mean, to me, she's the gift of an answer to a prayer, like a friend that just, I feel I love so much and so compatible with in so many ways, and uplifting and supporting one another. And that's what happens. Everything starts to improve. You have better relationships, better experiences. And yes, David said evolve. Yes, we do it to evolve, because right now on planet Earth, it is in a sense being required of us. It is. Otherwise, we're on two different timelines, right? Descending timeline that we can see is leading to all kinds of death, disease, you know, lack, limitation, poverty, sickness, illness, unpleasant things, or ascending timeline, which is anchoring us more and more in this new paradigm and these new vibrations. So that's why we do it. We do it to significantly and dramatically improve the quality of our lives in all areas of our life, whether it's money, wealth, health, abundance, prosperity, relationships, relationship with the divine, overall happiness, fulfillment, joy. That's why we do this work. And no, it is not a pill. So it's a lot of work. All right, so step number 3. Carrie, I don't remember, Carrie, she says, I met Aurora in Mount Shasta and she's great. Yes, she is. She's actually going to be my second on the crystal retreat this year. And I'm hoping you might want to come. I don't remember if you came with us, Carrie. I know we've had a couple of Carries and I don't remember their last names because I know your last name. I have a lot of Carries. So anyway, let me know if that's you, Carrie, one of the Carries who came. I don't remember. But anyway, she's coming with us on that retreat. All right, so we got step 3, right? Up level. Step 3 is awaken, activate, download, and integrate into the new energies. Step 4. So step 4, and by the way, when I talk about download and integrate, DNA is a major part of that. Absolutely, the DNA. Because understand, if you haven't heard me say this before, the DNA is storing up all the codes, information, and energy that you need, all of us as individuals, for living, existing, and prospering in the new paradigm. So every time we're activating DNA, my next DNA activation is on 5/5, which is a triple portal, right? 555, May 5th. And you can register for that at the website. It's still got the early bird registration rate. At lauriespagna.com under live events, you'll see speed activations, DNA activations. But that is a major part of step 3, because when you're activating that dormant DNA, what it's basically doing is awakening a new blueprint that was dormant. So think about this. In all the books of the library that exist, tons of books are in there, doing nothing, just sitting on the shelf until you take it out, a book that you want, look at it and say, yeah, I want this knowledge. And in the old way, you'd have to read it to get all that knowledge and wisdom in the book. And then to get any benefits associated with that new learning. In the new paradigm, all of that knowledge and wisdom, including the energetics, the vibration, the frequency, the divine truth, it's all in your DNA. Different codes in the DNA, unlimited. We haven't even tapped into all of it. I know, because I'm still working with the DNA. I'm always finding new stuff. So that DNA, those codes, they're in your DNA, just like a book on a bookshelf waiting to be read. Same concept. So when you start activating that DNA, like, think about it. Half the world doesn't know that they have codes of immunity and imperviousness in their DNA to any and all viruses. It doesn't mean you'll never get sick again. It just means you're vibrating at a whole different frequency that will basically make you immune and impervious to viruses. You still have to, sorry, I'm tapping the table. You still have to pay attention to the laws of nature. You still have to honor your body as a vehicle of communication and be aware it's going to you. And if it's getting sick or ill in some way, it's because it's letting you know something's out of alignment, right? Something in your thinking, believing, perceiving experience is not divinely aligned. So your body becomes a tool of communication. Nonetheless, people don't even know those codes exist. If only they knew. I have a free YouTube activation. If you haven't listened to that, please tell others, share it. It's my most recent video of gifted DNA activation of codes of immunity and imperviousness. So good, right? But this is what I mean. That's part of step 3. Because when you're activating those codes in your DNA, you're basically turning on blueprints that you never knew were there, that are gifts for you to survive and thrive in the new paradigm. And that's further allowing you to up level, right? Now, we're up to step 4. I'm taking a second to look at, everyone's playing with codes of numbers. That's very cool. I could do a whole course on numbers and the sacred numbers, but I'm not going to do that because otherwise I'll get distracted. Okay, step number 4. Elevate, up level, align, and anchor. Elevate, up level, align, and anchor. Now, what does that mean? The new paradigm, as we've already talked about, is a new frequency. So the easiest, and now it seems to be, I've seen this a lot more, but when I started saying it 10 years ago, nobody said it back then, or 20 years ago. The old paradigm is vibrating at AM 640. The new paradigm is vibrating at 92.7, for example, right? Old paradigm is let's just say CNN. New paradigm is Travel and Leisure Channel kind of experience. I don't know if that's a good example, but kind of. Two different channels, two different frequencies, two different bandwidths. Anchoring into the new paradigm requires now a way to, as those new activations are happening, we now start vibrating throughout our bodies and beings and throughout our consciousness at a whole new frequency. We're no longer listening, tuning into, or playing AM 640. Why would we even want to listen to that? It's fear, propaganda, lies, manipulation. Get afraid. Go get very afraid. You might die. Right? It's just all problems. You can hear those on the commercials. Sometimes I listen to YouTube when I'm working out for the music, and I can always tell the first question in an ad will be some question that is implying that you have a problem. Did you get mesothelioma during 1962, but from being exposed to toxic substances? It's like, can we just please get out of that paradigm? Just how do you integrate and anchor into a new paradigm? This will become a change of behavior, a change of your environment, a change of what you're listening to and engaging with, a change of who you're interacting with. When a person goes through what's called the dark night of the soul, now for me, I went through a dark night of soul 2 years while living in Maui. It was a very long period of time to go through a dark night of the soul. Most people do not have to go through that long, and these days you don't have to go through it at all if you don't want, because now there's so many spiritual teachers and healers. But 20 years ago, plus it just really wasn't available. And anyway, that's another story. When a person goes through that, what's happening is they've cleared out so much of their old density, but they don't yet know how to anchor into the new paradigm. They're trapped in a sense. They haven't yet, that's what happened for me. I hadn't been able to create and facilitate this step 4 that I'm talking about, which is I didn't know how to anchor into the new paradigm yet. I had done so much radical clearing, and I hadn't found the new paradigm. I had a new frequency, but I was lost because everything from the past made no sense. None of the relationships I had, none of the ways of being, none of the ways of thinking. I cleared and resolved so much of that, but I was just lost in finding my way. A lot of times when people don't know how to find their way, they get trapped in this dark night of the soul where they're sort of like cleared of the old to large degree. You know, a big foundational part of their old 3D paradigm is cleared, but they haven't anchored in yet. So anchoring in is the 4th step. And when you're anchoring in, you are starting to really realize, like, old relationships, no more. New relationships, old ways of going. You can't go to work. You can't do. You really start to realize you can no longer engage in the old ways. So I'm going to come back to your question, Sandy. I hope I can remember because it's a really good question, but I just want to finish with this part on this step, 4th step. I'm curious how many of you have been in a state or found yourself in a state of some kind of experience that you now know you just can't go back to. You just can't. So a really great example is I have had a client who has worked with me for many years. When she came to me, she was just starting to wake up and get more conscious. And at that time, she was in an old relationship. She was doing like an old career. She was having even some challenges around not only relationships, but family relationships, business career relationships, the career she was working in, her intimate partnership. She wasn't really enjoying the work that she was doing because she was getting to that point of having to make her shift and transition, but she didn't yet have like someone to help her, right? And she started working with me and she started doing all the DNA activation. She started doing She did the dolphin retreat with me that I did many years ago. She did the crystal retreat. She's going to do the sacred Sardona retreat. She's been working with me one-on-one for many years. And her life in the time, and when I say many years, like maybe 3 or 4 years, but dramatically has shifted so much for her. Her whole life is so different. She's no longer in that old relationship. She's now in a new relationship. She's bought a new home, 2 new homes. She's now starting a professional life just at this beginning of doing energy work and healing and, 5D work for people. Her life has shifted. Her relationships have shifted. Her friendships have shifted. So much of her life is so much better. And she's like, how come my mom is doing so well too? And I'm like, well, we've been doing it through the DNA, haven't we? We've been doing all of our stuff through the bloodlines. So our families benefit, our loved ones benefit when we do the DNA work. This is why we do it. It changes our lives for the better in very significant ways. Not always overnight. In fact, less often overnight, although sometimes, like Carolyn's message that she wrote, we'll notice it in a moment. We have big ahas, big moments of illumination, big wake-up calls. But the big long-term changes tend to take a little bit more time. But what happens is our lives change for the better. That's part of step 4. Because now we start interacting with people who are more to our liking, more at our core frequency, more at our vibration. We start having experiences that are so much more enjoyable. We start realizing like, oh, I can buy a new house. Oh, I can get on the road and travel cross country, even though everyone's saying it. My family was like, how are you going to travel across country while COVID has everything shut down? I'm like, okay, I cannot teach them how I know everything's going to be fine in 30 seconds of answering their question. I just know. I'm going to have all the hotels. I'm going to have all the money, whatever I need. I just know it's going to be there. I'm going to be fine, right? I'm traveling cross country. And I never had lockdown, not once. I never even got asked to wear a mask until I got to New Mexico. So what I'm saying here is your life changes in every area. And the 4th step is where you start changing your behaviors, actively working to realize that old way is not you. The new way is the way you have to start behaving, seeing, perceiving, realizing, acknowledging, making the changes for your life, taking appropriate action, interacting with other people who are more at your frequency, having a new job. And during that time, while that's happening, there'll be times where you look back and you say, I cannot do that again. And that's why I was asking you. Like Amy's saying, I'm at the point of no return. Yeah, you get to a point where you realize there's some things you just can never do again. You can't engage with them. You're just not interested. Even now, like, I'm just not interested in so many things. I am not a person who's political in the sense of Republican, Democrat. I'm in the United States, so that's how I could care less about that stuff. Please don't misunderstand me. I care about the world. I just know I'm not playing that game anymore. There's a way better way to change the world. Way better. And I've talked about the sacred government. That's an example. It's like we form new committees, groups, organizations where we know how we can make change for the better. And we don't even involve these old systems because they're just not that interesting and they're really not helpful. They're really not working. It doesn't mean that's not your calling. I have the same friend I was talking about. Some people are really actively engaged in the truther movement or exposing stuff. They have to play with the old systems to some degree or another. That's fine if that's part of your mission and work. There's no wrongness. I'm just saying the 4th step that we're talking about here is where you begin to realize where you're no longer going to participate in the old way and you're anchoring in vibrationally, energetically, in terms of your thoughts, your beliefs, your ideas, your emotions, your belief systems, your activities, your behaviors, your engagements in the new paradigm. Another good example is a friend on the call earlier, may still be here. She's working on selling her house. And we were having a conversation the other day. She had asked me, for some help and guidance in terms of, what's right and appropriate in terms of her house, selling her house. And one of the things she said to me, and I totally agree, she's like, the realtor I'm working with is not necessarily a new consciousness person. And there's a lot of limitation in her thoughts and beliefs of what's possible. And it's making it harder. And I was like, I totally get that. In the new paradigm, we really more and more just want to be working with other conscious. And I know for me, like I just hired a new tech guy, some more tech support. It's like, that's that new frequency. Like he's conscious. I'm so happy about that. Like for me, if I notice someone's really unconscious, I'm like, yeah, I got to find someone better, more appropriate. Not better as a person, better match for me. And generally speaking, the people I involve myself with are all conscious beings waking up. I interact more and more. I almost no interaction at all anymore with people who are not conscious. And I think we will find that more and more. That is part of the step 4. All right, so I hope that makes sense. Is everyone with me on what step 4 is about elevating and up-leveling and aligning and anchoring into the new paradigm? And that includes everything we think, believe, perceive, involve ourselves with, interact with, and the choices that we make in terms of our everyday lives. That's step 4. Now, I want to give you step 5. Inea says, stopped watching TV in 2005. That's awesome. When I saw the repetitive stuff, awesome. That's very cool. Carrie says, I had to be unafraid to give personal info over the internet in order to facilitate the effortlessness of residual income. That's awesome. See, you guys are already identifying ways that you made changes. Carrie made some changes this year over setting up some LLCs and bringing in residual income, and also working with crypto. I had to do that too. The dog that is sleeping next to me, who you guys saw in last week's video, but I'm not going to wake her up right now. She's a bit little. I had to really go with my guidance and trust in the guidance, because I handed over cash to the breeder up front. I wouldn't recommend this in every case. I really wouldn't, but it was right for me. It was what my guidance was teaching me. It was teaching me about trust, just like what you guys are talking about, in a new way. And I did pay cash up front without even knowing the person and without having my hands on it. I would normally, old paradigm me would never do that. I tried so hard to make it an exchange where, well, I'll give you PayPal or a credit card. And he was like, nope, cash only. And I mean, I had to really learn, it was a way of trusting the divine for me. I'm not recommending that necessarily to everybody. It was part of my unique journey in further trusting God, my relationship with God, and the guidance I was getting to get this puppy. But I paid 100% up front. And this is my first puppy that was not from a rescue that I ever had. She's just a special dog that I've always wanted. And she was meant for me. She's absolutely the right dog for me. It was incredible. She started teaching me before she ever came. But that was a new behavior for me, because I was always like, I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to make sure I'm taken care of, right? I allowed myself to trust in God and trust in my guidance and to know that it was right. And it wasn't easy. All right, so yes, that's an example. So, but is everyone with me? Kate wants to see her. All right, let me see if I can do this. I'll do a little teeny, let's stay with me here. Kate wants to see her, so I'm going to give, let's see. There she is. Uh-oh. There she is. She knows now. Oh my God, you guys. Is she the cutest little thing? I'm so in love with her. I am so in love with her now. Now I woke her up. Your baby girl. Oh, she might jump up on it. I might have to pick her up. But there she is. And her name is Shasta. I'm playing with Emma Shasta. But I'm leaning a little towards Shasta because that was the soul name. I talked about namology last week. Thank you, Lisa. Lisa says, I'm so happy for you with your new puppy. Thank you. Me too. She's a King Charles Cavalier. Love her so much. Can't stand it. All right, so let's go to step 5. King Charles Cavalier. Kimberly, you came on the Crystal Retreat. If you come again as a alumni, you'll meet her. Or maybe the Sacred Sedona Retreat. All right, so I'm going to give you step 5. And step 5 is very easy, actually, in the sense if you've got step 1 through 4. Well, there actually is 2 parts to step 5. So the first part is maybe not as easy. So if you understand the concept in the old paradigm that we learn lessons, do you guys understand that concept? We learn lessons, right? Everything's a lesson, and it's true. When you get more integrated and anchored into the new paradigm, you realize you do not have to learn a lesson anymore. You will still learn, but the learning is different. It comes through the direct downloads and the activations and the awakenings. It's not like you have to learn it a hard way anymore. So what we do, this is part 1 of step 5, is we choose experiences. Choosing experiences is all about creating the life that you want. Now that you have all these gifts, now that you're aligned with the divine and you know that you have unlimited resource, unlimited potential, all possibilities are available to you. You're like, what do I want to create? What do I want to have? I just taught a class called New Year, New Life, New You. I think the people in the class really liked it. They gave me a lot of positive feedback. I loved it because it's what I use for creating my life. I gave them all the tools and activation. We were doing this process throughout that class. And it was just really great content, but that's what it's about. It's creating life on your terms. And a lot of times when people were talking about the new energies, freedom is a new energy of the new paradigm. Old paradigm, we're told we're free. It's a lie, a manipulation. We weren't free. People don't realize that they're not free. Oh, they're starting to wake up to it. But in the new paradigm, you really are free. You realize as you claim your power, how much more impervious and immune you are to everything in the external world. You realize more and more that everything in the external world, more or less, is a reflection of what's going on internally, right? That's the whole shift of consciousness, external living to internal living, right? So everything that's in your external world becomes a radiation of what you are embodying, your frequency, your vibration, your consciousness, your awareness. And so now you can create your life. So you're choosing in a conscious way the kinds of experiences that you want to have and where you're going to give your life force. What is your life worth giving? What is worth giving your life to? What do you decide that you're going to use your embodiment for? And that is step 5. So you're not really learning lessons anymore so much. You're not really resolving karma so much anymore. You're creating for yourself. And that will include absolutely one thing we didn't mention that was asked before, I think it was by Linda, and I said I'd get back to it, is service and contribution. Remember, though, very important, service and contribution is never, ever to your harm or detriment. It is not about self-sacrifice. It's about serving in ways that are uplifting and joyful and exciting. That's why I can get on a call. I'm teaching a class right now that literally, to me, this is a great class. What I'm teaching. And it's free. It's gifted because it's part of my service. It's part of my contribution. And we realize source is our supply and our job is to be of service. And as long as it's aligned with our energetics of love and joy and happiness and fulfillment, we want to do it. It's exciting. It's expansive. It's uplifting. So it's choosing a new kind of experience is step 5 that is based in service, contribution, expansion, and upliftment. Whether it's a retreat, and something you're doing, something you're creating, you're a creator being. You recognize in step 5, you are a creator being. Creating your life, what you choose, based on what you know is possible for you. And so here's part 2 of step 5, is that every other step will continually be done over and over again, because even though you're creating, you're still going to run into, at this point in time and space reality, which we call 2021, you're still going to run into those old frequencies. You're going to bump in. You're going to interact. You're going to bump heads. You're going to come into it. You're going to have to work through it. You're going to have to keep resolving, go through all the other steps over and over again, because even though you're creating your life, old pieces, energetics, frequencies are going to come up for you to address and resolve along the journey. And even though the lessons won't be hard anymore, because now if you have new tools, which that's what I teach in my classes, if you're working with a healer or intuitive, if you're practicing all those steps along the way, you're going to know how to just, get your downloads, get your activations, claim the lessons learned, realize you don't have to repeat it anymore, realize you're done and complete with it, and then move along your way, being of service, contribution, and creating the life that you want. So yay, those are the steps. Does that make sense to you guys? How are you on that? Where are you on that? I love what Sandy wrote. I call them blessings. Oh, that's so cute. Totally. Blessings instead of lessons. Blessings. Yeah, so, okay. Is this helpful to you guys? So what I want to say here, I'm going to take some questions. I'm already at an hour and a half, so I don't want to stay too much longer just because I know you guys have stuff to do too. But what I do want to do is invite you to join me. I'm going to make another mention at lauriespagna.com. First, if you want more support on these steps, what I have coming up that's very easy, you don't have to travel, and it's very affordable, is a 5-week Ascension and support group. So in this Ascension support group, I've done this a couple times before, and it's a webinar. It starts on May 16th. We do it for 5 consecutive Tuesdays, and it's where I get to work with people one-on-one. So it's really about me assisting you to be able to access and identify all that unconscious stuff in step 1 from the inner excavation, and then to take that information and clear, heal, and resolve it, step 2, and then download and activate and awaken in step 3, the gifts you're meant to receive, all of that new energetics, and help guide you and lead you, step 4, so that you can anchor into the new paradigm. That's what this whole 5-week Ascension support group is. And it's week to week, and of course we have a in-between private Facebook group. The people who have participated in the class in the past have loved it. In fact, I think every one of the registrants who's in there right now has already done it in the past. If they haven't done it in the past, there might be 1 or 2 who just did the New Year, New You class and registered, because I gave my inner group I gave them a special offer, because my inner circles, I always give a special offer. So I would love for you to join me in there if you want more one-on-one support and assistance with that, right? It's direct support and assistance with me, where I can work with you directly and give you the healing, coaching, support, guidance. And there is a lot of channeling in there too, like direct channeling downloads, where I go in altered state and it's channeled. And I will tell you, some of the channeled information that comes through, it's so advanced, it's new to me a lot of times. It really takes us far. So I would love, love, love for you to join me in that. It's a 5-week Ascension support group. And right now, what you'll see is the early bird rate is listed as $5.95. The retail rate of this is $7.95. And honestly, it's really more like $9.95. Let me explain something that a lot of people don't realize. Like I from time to time will look at similar stuff that's being offered out there, and I'll think, oh my God, I am doing so much more than this at such an inexpensive rate. So recently I became aware of someone who was offering monthly coaching, 4 weeks, group format. And for the 4 weeks, she's not an intuitive, a psychic, a healer, nothing, just coaching on one topic area, narcissism, which that's an easy area for me, because I grew up in a completely narcissistic family that I had to work through. But so that rate that she was offering was $7.95 for 4 weeks, and they were only an hour each, and no in between Facebook time. So I know that my rates are awesome. So even though the value of this to me is $9.95, because of what you get and how it changes your world, the effects and how quickly your life will change. Like one of my clients who did re-register, and she's done a lot of the classes, and I think she's on the call now. I'm pretty sure I saw her. She was having all these relationship challenges with her mother in the midst of preparing for her wedding. And in the time we worked together, like her wedding ended up going off flawlessly in such wonderful ways without any problems from her narcissistic mother. And that was the only thing we really worked on for the most part during that time. But like she had a fabulous experience and result. And before she was working with me, there was like a lot of drama and problems there. The other thing we got to work on a little bit was just her raising her vibration and a few other little issues. But the point is like her experience reflected the inner work that she did. That's where the most amazing stuff is here. So when you're working with someone like me who can really help you through this, realize it's worth way more than what I'm charging. So I say that the retail value is $9.95 and the save $200 at the regular value is $7.95. Right now it's being offered at $5.95. Online at LoriSpagna.com. Under the live events tab, you'll see 5-week Ascension channeled coaching and healing. And there's channeling and healing, and you get lots of one-on-one time with me. And you get to benefit from the whole group work. But here's what I'm going to tell you. If you're on live and you want to register right now, you can go to PayPal and send a payment to info@ethelsgod.com and save $100 for $4.95. Right now, if you decide you want to do it. By the time I hang up, I won't be offering that anymore. But right now, if you want to do it, I'll give you the same rate that I gave at a discounted rate, another $100. So you just go to PayPal and you send it to info@efilsgod.com for $4.95, and you can save another $100 just because you joined me today and you were here live. I would love to have you. And what happens there is that everybody gets to really benefit from the group interaction, and then in between times we have the Facebook, and we're going through these things. Like you get to bring up what's on for you. You get to bring up like, here's what I'm working on. Here's what I'm struggling through. Here's what I'm challenged with, whether it's money, health related relationship, whether it's your prosperity, your spiritual connection, your spiritual gifts. How do I work better with my higher self? How do I get more divine guidance? How do I work with my angels? How do I help my animal? My animal's going through this issue. My animal's going through that issue. Oh, someone's asking for me to write it. Okay, thank you for asking. So first, I'll just give you, and then I'm going to do some of your questions before we say goodbye. That's the link. Did that work? Command. There it is. And then if you want right now to save $100 through PayPal, you can just go to that address. You log into your PayPal. You save $100. You send the payment to that address. info@ethelsgod. I just plugged it in there. Yeah. So you get to save $100 for being here live with me now before we hang up. So yeah, because it's really awesome. I want to help more people. And I know that one of the ways I can do that best is in group format, because you will get the same attention, energy, and focus being with me in a one-on-one. You won't get a full hour every week, but you'll be able to get time every week. Dedicated time, not 2 minutes, not 10 minutes. I've spent as much as a half an hour with some of them, like depending on what they needed. And then sometimes the next week, we just add. One of the things I love about working with people on a regular and consistent basis is that in between classes or sessions, I'm asking the divine, like, how did that go? Did I give them what they were meant to get? Is there more? Did I miss something? And very often, people who work with me regularly, they know this. I'll come back the next week and I'll be like, something else came through for you from our last session that I missed, or that didn't come out, or that needs to be brought through for you. And because I'm working with people regularly, I get to add more And a lot of times it's stuff people are completely unaware of. Like today I had a session with someone and she was struggling with something. And I mean, she was like looking for her own blind spots. She was trying to figure out what gifts was she missing? What was she missing? At the end of the session, it was like so much came through for her, so much huge epiphany that really for her helped her in such a massive way to be able to let go of what, you know, her own energetic blocks, her own blind spots, you know? So in any case, I hope you will join me for that. It's Spagna.com under the 5-week, it's under live events, under the 5-week Ascension, Channeled Ascension support, coaching and healing group. It begins on Tuesday, March 16th. We meet for 5 consecutive weeks. Everyone, I also, like the last group, I gave them the full self-love class as a bonus. That was an additional $1,000 class. I gave them that as a bonus. The week before that, the class before that, I gave them a full bonus on timelines. There was a full class that was worth another, I don't know, $5.95. I gave them that as a bonus. You will get bonuses. I just don't know what they are yet, but they'll be relevant to whatever the group needs, because everything that we cover is based on what the group needs, what the group dynamic is. And that's also what the channeling is that comes through. All the healings, all the channeling, it's based on what the group wants and needs. So you get extra bonuses, including an extra bonus healing webinar. So yeah, I would love to have you join us. It's the 5-week Ascension support group, and it's at LoriSpagna.com under live events. Starts on May 16th, and if you register live, you can save $100 off by, I'll type this in one more time, going to PayPal. If you hate PayPal, you can email us. It's $4.95. So you save $100 off the current rate, which is already deeply discounted. So the regular rate is $9.95. The regular action rate is $7.95. Right now, it's being offered at an early bird rate of $5.95. For you live, you can save an extra $100 and get it for $4.95. And you pay it direct through PayPal. It's helpful to me if you do it friends and family, or you do it from your current monies that you have in PayPal. So SJ, you can ask a question right now regarding the offer. You can ask the question right now if you want to, because I'm here right now. She said she has a question. So I just wanted to see if you absolutely want a credit card, you can ask us for a credit card form. But you'd have to get it back to us today if you absolutely want to use. Fill out the form, and then I run the credit card. Nobody else does. You fill out the form, you send it as a Word document so it's secure. And my team does not open that Word document, and I've been working with my people for a long time. Totally trustworthy. Yeah, Carolyn's asking, it's not showing up as $5.95 on the website. Let me see. Should be showing up as $5.95. Yeah, it is. If you were to pay for it today on the website with the early bird rate, it's $5.95. But I'm giving it to you guys for $100 off, but you can't use the website, right? You have to do it through PayPal. Also, I got to say one other thing. Make sure you put your email address in when you send it through PayPal. You have to put your email address in there manually so I know who's sending it, because PayPal doesn't just automatically tell us your email address. So you get $100 off. You do not need an invoice, SJ. You don't. Not if you're willing. If you feel like you're ready to sign up, you can send $4.95 address and say this. I'll know what it's for because it's the only offer I'm making right now for $4.95. And then we manually add you into the group of participants. It starts on, oh, did I say May 15th? No. If I said May 15th, that's wrong. March 16th. March 16th. That's what it says on the website. Thanks for asking, Karen. I might have said May. 2 M months. So Heather, thank you. Yay, I didn't see it yet, but I'm sure it'll come through. All right, so I'm going to take a few last minute questions from anyone. And this isn't going to be so much your coaching, because you know that's what that call will be, but on anything we covered today. Because I just really do want to support you. And by the way, for anyone listening to this in delayed playback, I'm going to do another one of these calls next week because I love them and it helps people get to know me and I get to support the community. So if you want to be live on Facebook with me, I'll do another one next week. And I'll probably do a totally different topic. But anyway, I would love, love, love for you to be there too. So Kate is asking, so it's not really coaching, it's just about the topic today, right? I've been going through a huge shift recently for about 1.5 years now. I've been finding that the food is very unsatisfying and uninteresting. Finding that I can't get much joy from it. I'm eating, just not happily. All right, well, it's not so much of a coaching call, but I will, just briefly answer. First of all, one of the things you can do with your psychic gifts is awaken and activate your taste buds. Old paradigm food is very dead. Old paradigm food is GMO. Old paradigm food is in cans, artificial food substances, the fluoride in the water. Everything dumbs down the taste buds. And when we activate our psychic potential, and the more intuitive we become, the more we realize that old food is just dead food. It's not even real, especially anything from fast food, from a shelf or a can that's just dead food. And we gear ourselves more and more towards living food that comes right from Mother Earth, not processed, clean, pure water. And that awakens our taste buds. So if you've already made that shift, you're starting to realize that. And your taste buds won't be as satisfied. They want more. So, but also the psychic part of us starts to activate and awaken more of the natural gifts to really fall in love with our food. And especially, anything we taste. When I eat and my friends are around me, they know, they hear me. I'm like, oh my God, it's so good. Like I'll literally go off because the food is so good. And I still do a good amount of breatharian. I incorporate that too. So I have a lot more joy of what I do, take in. But that is psychic knowing and definitely something that you can work on. So anyway, short answer, but something we could definitely help you with through activating more of that psychic awareness, activating and awakening 5D taste buds, which really, that is real stuff. Shifting and changing behavioral patterns to make sure that what you're eating is divinely aligned for your body being, for your most benevolent best. So, okay, I hope that's helpful, Kate, and thank you. All right, I'm going to scroll through and see. Karen, who has been in the group before, I love you so much, Karen. She says, does it start in May or March? I think I answered that, right? I mentioned May. Yeah, March. Starts March 16th, Tuesday, March 16th. It goes through for 5 consecutive weeks, and there's an extra bonus healing. So, all right, questions, this is the time. I'll scroll through. Otherwise, I'll wrap for the day. Amy says, thank you. Has this been helpful for you guys? I can see some people from the Crystal Retreat are talking to each other. That's nice. Lifetime friendships are formed in those retreats. Heather says, will you help us activate our superpowers in the next 5-week retreat? Yes, that is an automatic. That is an automatic. That is absolutely, that's the whole foundation, because in the new paradigm, we all have superpowers, right? They are in the DNA. We do that in the DNA activations. That happens as a natural byproduct of activating our DNA. I mean, if you were to tell someone who let me just give you this as an example. If you were to tell someone in the old paradigm who's afraid of getting COVID, running around with a mask and going to get a vaccine that they don't know, it is a testing vaccine. If you were to tell them that you have a superpower within you to be completely immune and impervious to COVID and to live 100% free from fear of COVID, I do. I am living proof of it. All of my clients who are in my inner circles will attest that, I mean, they will say it. They're living proof of it. Then let me ask you, do you think that's a superpower? Because it is. And it's just the beginning. Because your superpowers, yes, we're all psychic, we're all intuitive, we're all healers. We all have the potential to communicate with animals and other living beings. We all have star race DNA in us. If we want to connect with star families, other dimensions, we can access infinite dimensions of consciousness, on and on. But it starts with participation and doing this work, these 5 steps. So I hope that makes sense. I mean, that's a course. That is a huge part of the focus of this 5-week seminar, activating our superpowers. So, and you will love it. You will love the support you get. You will love the private Facebook group because you get access to me in between classes. All right, Sandy, that was your question. I said I would go back. Will you put it in again, Sandy? I'll address it again. If you put it in there. In the meantime, I'll address Tammy's question. When does the COVID-19 mask, vaccines, bull poo end? I think we're already starting to see that lifting. If you're not seeing it yet, it means your frequency bandwidth and your awareness needs to shift. But it is already getting better. It's already lifting. It really is. But we will find ourselves much more free and liberated come April. That's what I'm getting. And more progressively as we go on. But keep looking for it and ask the universe to show you more evidence of that we're freed and liberated from it, because there's lots of evidence that we're already being freed of it. Okay. Yeah, so Sandy, I don't see your question again. I forget what it was, but it was something about how do we help and serve. So I thought I had addressed it. So many, questions, I can't find it again, Sandy, and I wanted to come back. Can you please address my question? So Sandy, I was looking for you to re-put it. It had something to do with how do we help others? How do we help and serve others who are still in 3D? And what I will say about that is to consciously become part of the sacred government. I've taught about that. I've spoken about that in a lot of the classes. Actively engage in the sacred DNA activation calls, the speed activation calls for activating the DNA, because in almost all of those calls, part of what we do is we go through the bloodlines of our DNA. And that means we actually are doing DNA activations for our lineages. We have to do it according to what the laws will allow, the universal laws. Oops. So, I was going to pick her up, but she's still sleeping. Okay, she says, wondering what's the best way to assess the collective and help clear the dense energies. Yeah. Become part of the sacred government. Consciously participate in sacred government calls. DNA activation calls are sacred government calls. We are activating our dormant DNA. We are running it through the bloodlines. We are giving it to our ancestors as we're allowed to by divine source. We're running it through all dimensions, time, space. We're affecting the collective from the non-physical, which is where we have the most power. Sacred government calls, impromptu speed activation calls, healing activation, all of that. Every time you do healing and clearing on yourself, you are contributing to the mainstream. See, our old paradigm doesn't believe that. Our old paradigm thinks you can't make a difference unless you sign a petition or stand in some kind of petitioning line, or some kind of protest, or if you write to your government leader, because that's disempowering. We're taught that's the only way you can make a change. I'm not saying you can't do that or shouldn't do that. What I'm saying is, when we get into the quantum field and we unify with the divine and we're in a collective together group, agreeing on what we want and choose for humanity, it has to be in service to the collective. Once we do that, we can make massive exponential change, like unmeasurable change in the non-physical that affects the whole. So that's what my answer is to you, Sandy, and that is basically the platform and the basis of almost all the work that I do. Even right now, bringing non-physical into the physical. By becoming conscious, we are making massive change and effect for the better. So I hope that's helpful, Sandy. And by the way, just if I didn't already anchor this in, every time one person does healing, and remember my definition of healing that I talked about earlier, for themselves, clearing, healing, and resolving, the whole of humanity is uplifted. Every time one person raises their frequency, the whole of humanity is uplifted. Because the dark can only temporarily dim the light, but the light will always uplift the dark. So every time you, whoever you are, in this case Sandy, uplifts your core frequency, your vibration, by any form of healing or expansion of consciousness, even today, what we've done here, you're uplifting the whole of humanity. So your presence here, everyone on the call, matters so much because you're uplifting your consciousness, you're raising your vibration just by being here. One person uplifts. Every time one person goes dark into the dark, they temporarily lower the frequency, but never permanently, because the light will always continue to uplift the shadow. And that's what's happening on planet Earth right now. We had a temporary dip really deep down into the shadow with COVID last year, and now we're all uplifting, elevating. It is powerful. Thank you, Tammy. She says, that's so powerful and feels so right. Right. You know it's right. Tune in. Tune in. I'm not feeding you a lower bowl here. This is true. This is divine truth. And you know it's divine truth because you can drop into your heart and you can be like, yes. Yes. So good. It's so good. It's hard to believe. It's so good. Right? We can't even imagine it's so good. And yet it's so good. It's absolutely true. So, all right, you guys. Yes. Ozga Healing and Beyond says, keep working on yourself. Your intention counts. It's so true. You don't know what else to do. Start meditating. Yeah, that's a great way. That's awesome. Totally agree. And Amy says, my energy has increased. I was feeling a little run down. Woohoo! I'm so glad, Amy. See, we were all helpful to one another here. Kimberly says, thank you, Lori. I always love my time with you. Thank you, Kimberly. I hope to see you again in Arkansas or Sedona. All right, so I'm going to leave you guys with some free gifts just in case. Remember, if you're interested in learning about the crystals, LoriSpagna.com/free gifts/crystals. An awesome, really fun ebook about the 4 crystals you must have for Ascension and how to use them with our current physical world, how to use them, what to do with them, and a class, an MP3 class on it. You will love it. Really easy, fun, great thing to listen to while you're like making dinner or whatever, walking the dog, whatever. Second, if you want to get a free activation of your DNA, LoriSpagna.com/free gifts/DNA. This is a great class about the DNA, why we activate it, how we activate it. Plus, you'll get a whole DNA activation gifted to you. Plus, remember to go over to YouTube for the free activation on YouTube at my channel, Lori Spagna. DNA activation is all you need to get for immunity and imperviousness to any and all viruses. And then you'll get a little teaching in the beginning there so you understand how it works and why it's real and why it works. Also, free gift for you and your animals. LoriSpagna.com/free gifts/animals for learning about animal communication, telepathy, what the animals want us to know, and how to connect better and help your animals in the animal kingdom. There's a lot more free gifts at the website at LoriSpagna.com. Those are the ones lighting up. Oh, the Starseed one. LoriSpagna.com/free gifts/Starseed. For anyone who wants to know and understand more about the Indigo family tribes, the Lightworkers, what we're here doing, the shift of consciousness, what all the different roles are, change agents, way showers, etc., etc. And you can get a great class, MP3 class, and ebook there on that as well. And then within the next 5 minutes, if you want to join us for the next 5-week Ascension Channeled Coaching and Healing Retreat, which I put the link in there, make sure you take care of that now. You can either email us. Here's the link. I'll say one more time. You can email us on the contact page of the website if you want to use. Make sure you give us your email address. If you absolutely want to use a credit card, we can give you a credit card for them. It would have to be today. Or if you want to join us and get that $100 rate off right now, there is the email address you can use through PayPal. And make sure you include your email address so we know we'll be adding you. You won't hear anything from us immediately, right? The class starts March 16th. It's 5 weeks, consecutive Tuesdays, and then a bonus healing week as well. So the call access goes out to the whole group the week beforehand. You won't hear anything from us immediately, but just know that when you send that, PayPal sends you a receipt immediately. You'll get a receipt and we will add you to the group list manually. All right, so with that, and then other than that, I'm going to be back here next week. I'll do another Facebook Live on another topic to support and assist you. I'll probably take a little more questions because I didn't get to do as many this time. But, oh, there's Mary. Hi, Mary. Mary was on the Crystal Retreat. A lot of you guys from the Crystal Retreat are on here. I have unfortunately maxed out my Facebook friend list. I hit 5,000 today. So I'm going to go through, and anyone who I have no idea who you are, I'll probably delete, but I do recognize the names. So, because I got to make space. Or else people can go over to the other page too, because I will have my video person put the replay of this video on my other Intuitive Lori Spagna page as well. Okay, you guys. So with that, I'm going to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you for participating. I hope this has been helpful. I love you guys. It's so great. Susie's here. Janice is here. So many people from the other retreats. I hope you guys will join me again at the next upcoming retreats. You can head over to lorispagna.com to check out the 2 retreats. Sacred Sedona coming up in May and the Crystal Retreat in September. And then next week I'll be back on Facebook for another Facebook Live. And until then, you guys, love you so much. Thanks for being here. And I'll see you next time. Okay, lots of love. Bye.